building bridges.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the press, and my appreciation for you being here under short notice. But it's a momentous occasion, it's a historic moment for us, so we felt that there was need for us to urgently hold this press conference. As the Zimbabwe Association of Community Radio Stations, ZACRAS, we welcome the historic step taken by the Broadcasting Authority of Zimbabwe to license the first 3 community radio stations in post-independent Zimbabwe. In a statement published on the BUZZ Twitter and Facebook pages on 17 December 2020, which was last night, the authority announced the granting of community radio licenses to the Mbembesi Development Trust, Ntepe Manama Community Radio Trust, and Nyangani Community Radio Trust. Since the promulgation of the Broadcasting Services Act of 2001, which introduced for the first time legality to the idea of community radio broadcasting in Zimbabwe through reference to the 3-tier broadcasting system comprising of public, commercial, and community broadcasting, ZACRAS has been advocating for the licensing of community radios so as to give a voice and accentuate existing ones in marginalized and underrepresented communities. The formation of ZACRAS was therefore premised on the need for a unified national advocacy platform for community radio initiatives and activists. This national advocacy platform, which is ZACRAS, had as its primary tasks seeking both the democratization of broadcasting and media-related laws, as well as pursuing a people-centered lobbying for the urgent licensing of community radio stations. Obviously, for us, it was very urgent, but for the powers that be at that time, it seemed like it wasn't, because it didn't happen as early and as urgent as we would have wanted. One reason or other would be given. ZACRAS therefore takes this opportunity to commend the Second Republic for taking visible steps in seeking to put to life the provisions of the BSA, which is the Broadcasting Services Act, including Section 61 and 62 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, which talk about access to information and freedom of expression, respectively. This latest development also comes against the background of the licensing of the first campus radio, the Great Zimbabwe Campus Radio. While we remain alive to the fact that these are the first of the 10 community radios that are set to be licensed in what we hope to be the first phase, we continue to entreat the government of Zimbabwe through BUZZ to ensure that the broadcasting space is diversified in its entirety through the licensing of people-centered and community-rooted and owned community radios. Furthermore, we urge the government of Zimbabwe to ensure that the new licensees get all the technical and startup support that is needed to get the stations off the ground. As ZACRAS, we stand ready to partner and offer any support that may be needed as the country transforms the broadcasting sector. As ZACRAS as well, we however believe that the success of these newly licensed stations will only be possible if they are allowed to independently function and communities are given the full rights to own and run their stations devoid of any interference from any sector. This, of course, can only be possible if we all respect their editorial and programming independence. As ZACRAS, we also take this time to congratulate the first 3 licensees, one of whom is a member of ZACRAS, that is Ntepe Manama. It is our hope that you will holistically contribute to the development of your communities through the provision of information platforms which enable community participation, engagement, and indeed development. We still hope to have 7 more to be licensed in this phase. I keep referring to the phase because although the government has said that they were going to license 10 community radio stations, there are a lot of initiatives, community radio initiatives across the country. We're hoping that there will be another call for them also to be licensed. In conclusion, I take time to acknowledge the role that was played by different stakeholders who are indeed part of the broader community radio movement, amongst them community-based organizations, civil society organizations, and development partners, just to name a few, in contributing towards the licensing of community radios in Zimbabwe. Sincere gratitude is also extended to past leadership of ZACRAS, the chairpersons, starting with Kudzai Kwangwari, Gift Mambipiri, and John Chirinda, whom I succeeded. And indeed, the entire ZACRAS family, which comprises of the members that are now about to reach 30, this is indeed our victory, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I will hand over to Gimo Chibere, the Director of Community Radio Harare, to give us your remarks about what you think of this historic moment in the broadcasting sector in Zimbabwe.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Convener, and good morning to you all. I think as Community Radio Harare, we are obviously excited by the fact that one of our own, in the form of Ntepe Community Radio, and others who are not members of ZACRAS but have been fighting for the same cause, have been licensed. And this to us is very important because it marks the beginning of the outputs of a struggle that we have been engaged in since 2001, when the Broadcasting Services Act was promulgated by the government, as the chairperson said. But we are obviously also concerned by the fact that it has taken government 19 years to license the first community radio station, and this is of major concern, and so we are concerned about the pace at which the government has been moving regarding the issue of licensing of community radio stations. And as Cora, and also as many of you may be aware, we have not been part of the community radio stations that we ask it to submit community broadcasting licensing documents. So we are appealing to the government to speed up the processes of licensing those that submitted their applications, and also at the same time for the government to submit calls for submission of proposals as required by the Broadcasting Services Act, so that community radio stations like Cora, we have been ready, we have got all the necessary infrastructure that is needed to start community broadcasting, can be licensed and go on air. We also want to reiterate to the government to say that the government has to see community radios as a partner for development and not as adversaries. We are there to complement government development efforts. We are there to give a voice to the communities. We are there to give a space for the communities to make their contributions to the discourse of community and national development. So we urge the government not to be skeptical about the role that the current or the role that community radio stations want to play. I think for now this is what I can say. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if there are any questions, we will be taking.
Your views and comments are welcome on the program. Remember to like our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, and be the first to see as it happens. Watching TV on the go. SlyMedia TV, building bridges.
My name is Lucy Yasini. My question is directed to the Cora representative. You said you were not invited to submit applications to be allowed to broadcast. What are the implications of that if you were not part of the group that was asked to submit?
Another question? Yes, sir.
My question is going to Madam.
You can introduce yourself, sir.
My question is going to Madam Kapuya. Are this station going to use the analog or digital or the digital channel? Are they going to use analog or digital channel?
Another question? Yes, Tapati.
Okay, thank you. My question goes to Mrs. Kapuya from ZACRAS. in your view, do you think community radio stations are now a viable option, considering how social media has taken over everything? We now seeing people going towards what you call it, podcasting and all that. So do you think they are a viable option for, associations like yours to push for them to be licensed?
Okay, so Madam Chair, and comment here. Respond to the case out.
Can I take this? Should I
Okay.
respond first?
Maybe you can respond to the first question was directed to me, so let me respond. Okay. The implications, the setup that has been there regarding the stages in terms of how to submit a community radio licensing documents is that you actually have to wait for the government to send you call for submissions. So what it means is that you cannot wake up and start to submit an application. You have to wait for the government. So the implication of this is that the government may choose to or not to ask you to submit community radio applications. So the major implication now becomes that it means you can wait and wait without having submitted the applications and without being licensed, and this also now means you will have to go the route of using other alternative media platforms which are not the frequency modulation spectrum that we would want to use. And the frequency modulation, I think, which also partly answers the third question, to say, given the growth of social media, are community radio still a viable option? Community radio still remain a viable option because social media also require the audience to have some data. You need to have some money for you to be able to access information and express yourself. Without the data, there's nothing. But with the frequency modulation with the radio station, you simply need to tune in, and you can listen as an individual, as a family. So the community radio, they still remain a very viable option. Also regarding the community radio, there's also the issue of ownership and management of community radio stations is premised within the hands of the target community, unlike social media where you don't have control. And also the fact that with social media there is lots of misinformation, lots of fake news that go around. So community radios remain still remain a viable option.
Just to add on a bit on why we think it still remains a viable option is because with community radios, they are community specific. They target particular communities. Social media targets everyone who is able to log on, who has internet access. But community, even the programming, the people that actually go and do some work at the community radio stations come from that very community. They use their own languages, they use their own systems, they use their own ways. They know their ways on how to do things. They talk about development issues. They warn each other about looming crises. There's a lot. So community radios really remain, I think, for forever. They will remain a viable option because of that fact that they are community specific. There are issues that are peculiar to communities that they want to discuss as communities. They also use their own languages, their cultures are represented and all that. So they will remain a viable option for us. And also to answer the question on whether they're going to be using digital and analog, they're going to be using digital. Was there another question? Okay, the implication. I just wanted to add on the question that you asked Lucy on the implications of not being invited. Just to say that the fact that, like he says, we have to wait for the Broadcasting Authority of Zimbabwe to give a call or to let out a call to say those who want to be licensed as community radios, please, can you now submit proposals? Is the very reason why it has taken this long for community radios to start being licensed, because there was never a call since 2001 when the Broadcasting Services Act was promulgated. So that is the implication that, it might take even 20 more years if they choose to, to not license community radio. So we are hoping that would not be the case.
Sorry, ma'am. So this won't be conventional radio stations, because you are saying they are going to use digital. Because you will take it from the component of digital terrestrial television. So digital terrestrial television does not offer conventional radio stations. You have to actually listen to probably the radio TV, also your TV in the house. You can't actually tune into that radio when you are probably driving or something. So these are going to, they are not going to be conventional radio stations because they are digital.
Okay, she wants to.
Okay. I think you are quite aware that the International Telecommunications Union has been transforming the broadcasting frequency sector, all of it from the analog, moving towards the digital way, because the basics is that the analog was carrying, it's heavy, the frequency become too heavy. So if you split and digitalize, you are actually creating more space for more radio and television stations. So what happens now is that Zimbabwe has been a signatory to the ITU, and has also been forced to move away from the analog to the digital. And this is one of the reasons that have been that were given by Broadcasting Authority of Zimbabwe to say we have been delaying the licensing of more community radio stations because we want to create more bandwidth, more space for more community radio stations. So our understanding at the moment is that the Broadcasting Authority of Zimbabwe is now in tandem with the requirements of the International Telecommunications Union, and that going forward we will all be going digital. I don't know if that is helpful to you.
So you are talking of conventional radio. I don't know when you say conventional, but I think we have digital radio stations already, isn't it? And you can listen to them when driving. For example, I think when you look at the Mashingo and the Great Zimbabwe University, I think the radio, the campus radio, you can listen to it, Mabachi, when you are driving. I experienced it myself. Obviously, from Chirezi, you will be listening to it up to maybe afternoon or something like that.
It's not FM. If it's FM,
yeah, it's FM.
So it's not digital. They can offer certain components of digitization, but does not mean that the signal is digital. I want to find out on the signal.
Yeah, maybe it's coming from the technical side.
Yeah.
I think they are more into the advocacy about the radio being there, not on the technicalities about the issue.
I think Baz will be able to.
So I think maybe we go for another round of questions. I think with Mabachi, they will have to sit with you some other time. Yes, one, two. Do we have any other? All right, Doc.
Right.
So we go for that round now.
Yeah, the latest report of the International Telecommunications Union says Zimbabwe has a capacity of establishing at least 75 radio stations. What is ZACRAS doing in terms of advocating for the reform of the law? Since the Broadcasting Services Act says that you have to wait for them to make a call for applications.
Okay, so we maybe
supposed to be owned by the communities, community rooted. The programming is determined by the communities. So with that sort of background and that definition, we are hoping, we can only hope that they are independent. But like you say, the terrain and the environment in our country, we know how it is. You said it yourself. So we do not know, but we hope.
there's another question.
The first question.
I can respond to that.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, the ITU says there is more space for more community radios in Zimbabwe, and so what we've been doing with ZACRAS is to say because Cora is also the founding member of Zagras, has been to say we are putting for an alternative legislation that actually stipulates that all those that feel they can run a community radio station should be able to submit applications at any given time, and not to wait for government through bars to call for the submission of